He's up by Lochhaven Lake, just out of Cisco Grove, and I got separated from the rest of the group, and we went out too far before dark. The area was real rough terrain. I got to the point where I couldn't see, so I just climbed the highest mountain I could find right around that area, and lit a fire just to see if I could get some type of response to that. This was to the people that was to the other party. And I waited until the fire went out and I didn't have any response, so I climbed up in a tree nearby, and I guess I was there a half hour or so, and I spied this light, which I thought was a helicopter, just bobbing up and down over the surface, and it'd go up above the skyline and then down below the timberline. So I jumped out of the tree and started I built 3 small fires on this rock, and to attract attention. To try to attract attention. As soon as I did that, this light turned and came towards me, and I still thought at that time it was a helicopter. And there's a ranger station nearby. I thought maybe they contacted this, and they were looking for me. But then when it came right up to me, there was no sound. It just hovered there, just the light is all I could see. I'd say about, it's hard to say, about maybe 50 yards, maybe not that. It was fairly close. Was this a bright light? It was, it wasn't a light that showed a flash or a spot. It was just like a glow or something. It just, anyway, they made a half circle around me, and when it got out over this canyon, then I saw that there was 3 other objects, just flat. I can't describe the size. They remind me of kites. There's 3 of them spaced in equal parts behind this light. And connection between the 2? Well, I couldn't see any connection. It was just all I could see was the moon reflecting on these objects. And while I was watching it, there was something dropped out of the bottom of the first object, one behind the light. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it went down down in this canyon. I couldn't see it anymore. So, and I was still watching the light. It was just still, just hovering. And the next thing I heard was, just a few minutes later, it was crashing through the brush uphill from me. And I saw up on the top of the ridge this little blinking light, and it looked somewhat of a dome or something. I couldn't see the whole object, just reflecting off of that. And then I saw one of these men come into view, and he stopped by this man's knee. I don't know if he was curious what it was, but he was messing around with it some way. Could you see what he was wearing? It was just a white outfit. I don't know if it was white or not. It was a light colored, looked like a suit of some type. And didn't look like there was any helmet. It just covered the whole body, though, everything. How about arms, legs? Yeah, everything was covered, yeah. It was just like a human form, with the exception it didn't have a neck. It just a head. It looked like just a head on the shoulder. And it was joined with this other same form, and they came right under the tree, within 12 foot under me, and just looked up at me. And I was all dressed in camouflage clothing, so I thought maybe I could stay still enough. I could see it. Yeah. And then I saw these 2 big eyes coming through working its way down this hill. And they just all the size of a silver dollar, and they looked like they had actual flame inside. But they had nothing to do with these other 2 individuals. No, it came up separate from them. And it stood kind of uphill from me, about 12 to 13 feet, something like that. And I noticed that kind of a white smoke was coming out of its mouth. And in the next instant, I started kind of gasping for breath, and I kind of temporarily lost consciousness. I fell over my bow here on the limb. And at that time, I thought maybe I was too close. It was radioactivity or something like that of that sort. And I thought maybe they were out to get me then, so I shot my bow at them. I hit this one 3 times, this one that was made out of metal. And every time I hit it, it was just like a arc flash or taking 2 electrical wires and snapping them together.
Wasn't doing any good.
No, and it shoved them back a little bit, but that's all it did. And
did you fire the other 2?
No, I didn't. He was the only one that was doing any damage, so I followed giving my permission.
Then what?
And then I had several books of matches with me, so I lit one and threw it down just to see if maybe they were afraid of fire. And they stepped back a little bit, so I lit my hat on fire and threw it down. When I did that, this saucer or whatever it was, this light, made that cooling noise, and then it just shot way up in the sky. It stayed way up real high then. And these others, all these guys moved back. They moved back away from the fire. So I saw that they were afraid of fire, so I just started tearing my camouflage clothing off. I had my regular clothes underneath, and started lighting it and tried to catch what little brush there was around there on fire. And as long as the fire was burning, they stayed back, but then I ran out of matches before too long. And so I climbed as high as I could in the tree right to the top, and took my belt and wrapped around me in the tree just in case I did pass out like that again. And as soon as the fires died down, they came back in underneath the tree. And this one, call him a robot, one that looked like metal. Yes. When the smoke would come out of his mouth, I'd start kind of gasp for breath. It was just like nitrogen or something would take the place of air. That's no smell or no odor. I just couldn't breathe. It just like I wasn't getting any air. And then I'd pass out for just an instant, and as soon as I'd wake up, I'd get the dry heaves and everything. And, I found out that by shaking the tree, that as long as the tree would move, they would step back away from it. So I repeatedly done this all night. They'd try to boost each other up the tree trunk, and as soon as I moved the tree, then they'd step back. And it seemed like that smoke would come, and I'd black out for an instant, and as soon as I'd wake up, I could see them. They'd just be starting up the tree, so I knew I wasn't out too long.
Did the robot ever attempt to climb the tree, just the other 2 individuals?
He was down there, but underneath the tree there, he never attempted to climb it or in any way. And this went on all night, and several times I saw these lighter objects go over rocks and stuff, and I could hear crashing through the brush around the area. And close to morning, the sky was just starting to turn a little pink, and this other robot came up, and there was 2 of them underneath the tree, and they were standing facing each other. I could see them down through the branches, and it just seemed like arc flashes or electrical flashes going back. It was just real bright flashes in between them, and that smoke and stuff really poured up through the tree, and I blacked out then, and the next thing I woke up, couldn't have been more than a half hour later, because it was still kind of dark. It was just getting light, and I was hanging from my belt at the top of the tree, and when I
got down, well, I looked around and there was nothing there. And I went down and I looked around the bottom of the tree and everything. All I could find was a piece of burning cloth, and then I found my canteen and this one arrow I shot. It was laying on top of the brush over to the side, which was the direction I shot it. And that's about all I could say.